still made a very large difference by raising the ceiling up in a turtleback fashion and removing the wall between what was a kitchen and a living room. Of course, we're doing something a little bit different here to make it a little nicer, and that's we're installing a wood ceiling. Now, the homeowners wanted to have a painted ceiling, so we used the 1x6 pine and we put a coat of primer on it. Once it's all installed, they'll do a little caulking and a little spackling here and there. Then they can put the last 2 coats on to finish up the look of it. Now, another option is to stain this wood. You can see it's pretty clear, no knots on it. Makes for a nice looking ceiling. You can stain it a light color, or you may choose for that rich wood color and darken it down a bit. Then you can put a coat of sealer on it, install it. One last coat of sealer and it'll last for a long, long time. But when you're installing this much wood, it takes a long time. The biggest reason is there are an awful lot of cuts that have to be made, and then each board has to be positioned perfectly so that all the joints line up neatly. This V-groove material we're using here is a very good grade of wood, but all dimensional lumber is prone to some warping and bowing, so each individual piece has its own unique personality. That means they often require a little persuasion to line up in the groove of the previous piece so that each new joint is just as tight as the one before. And all of this has to be done without scarring the surface of the wood. Then, of course, the end joints need to be staggered along the length of the room so that they don't all meet on the same joist, which would give the ceiling kind of a lopsided look. And as you might guess, cuts around light fixtures and ceiling vents are also a little more time consuming. All of these factors combined make installing a wood ceiling much more labor intensive than a simple drywall ceiling. Think about it this way. 2 men can hang a 4x12 sheet of drywall in just a few minutes, and they've installed 48 square foot of ceiling. While the same square footage of wood ceiling could take a pair of skilled carpenters as much as 2 hours to install. Of course, the drywall ceiling will also need some finish work and a couple coats of paint to be complete, but a wood ceiling requires a fair amount of prep work too, and whether you stain it or paint it, a good finish on wood takes time. Now, all this additional time adds up to money unless you're doing the work yourself, but the results can be spectacular. All of the time that we spent on the ceiling really paid off. It looks great, and the colors that the homeowners chose complement all the new cabinetry and floor and the island area just perfectly. You know, I realize not everybody has the time or skill to install a ceiling like this, but here's an option that's a lot more do-it-yourself friendly. Now, this type of ceiling, which simulates wood very closely, even with the texture and the finish on it, is a lot easier to install because it simply just glues or staples right to your existing ceiling. So you can change the look of a room very quickly with material like this. Now, the material itself costs about the same as our wood ceiling, but where you really save money is on saving on the amount of time it takes and on it being completely pre-finished and available in several different type of finishes. And I'll tell you, getting a ceiling like this primed and painted